quickly, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan, your co-host for this session. I'm the USA Today bestselling author of 12 thrillers, including the psychological standalone The First to Lie, which is casually displayed behind me, which is now nominated for the Mary Higgins Clark Award, and of The Murder List, which won the Anthony Award for Best Novel of the Year. So welcome again to our wonderful authors this evening. Let me introduce them to you now. Julie Carrick Dalton. Wave, Julie. Her debut novel, Waiting for the Night Song, was a CNN, Newsweek, Parade, and USA Today most anticipated 2021 book, and an Amazon Best Book of the Month in January. A Tin House and Grub Street Novel Incubator alum, Julie is a member of the Climate Fiction Writers League, and she owns a small farm in rural New Hampshire. So that's a lot that you all need to ask her about in the breakout rooms. Ask her about Cli-Fi, which she is one of the most well-known authors in the Cli-Fi world, if you've heard of that. Speaking of well-known authors, J.T. Ellison. Wave J.T. is a Nashville-based thriller author who loves golf, wine, books, and cats. That sounds like a good lineup. She's a New York Times bestseller, and her work ranges from police procedural series to international thrillers to domestic noir. Her newest, Her Dark Lies, casually displayed behind her, is her 24th published novel. Damyanti Biswas, Wave Damyanti, is currently based in Singapore, where it is pouring, and it is 6:45 in the morning. So anything could happen with Damyanti. Her short fiction has been published in many anthologies, and she serves as one of the editors of the Forge Literary Magazine. Her Amazon best-selling literary crime novel, You Beneath Your Skin, was published by Simon & Schuster India and has been optioned for screen by Endemol Shine. So that is about as good as it gets. Congratulations and welcome, Damyanti. And Riley Sager is the New York Times bestselling author of Final Girls, The Last Time I Lied, Lock Every Door, and Home Before Dark. His next book, Survive the Night, will be released on June 29th. Oh yes, hold it up. I'm only to the wallet part, Riley. I'm only to the wallet.
Oh, wow, yes.
Part. So don't say any more than that. He lives in Princeton, New Jersey. So welcome to all of you tonight. I am now looking at my desk because I know I have our 20 questions on these fabulous backroom question cards. Pretty great, doesn't get fancier than that. And let me ask you all each a question, a couple of questions. Let me start with you, Riley, since you're the first person in a row on my screen.
Okay.
Riley, what is the first thing that you remember writing?
A short story in 6th grade. It was for English class, and I believe it was about a reindeer that broke loose at Christmas, and it got a big laugh from my classmates. So that was all I wanted.
Do you remember?
I think I got an A.
You got an A. Okay, well, that's all that matters. And you're still getting A's now. Do you remember what the title was?
I don't even think I had a title.
Oh. Early writing.
I think it was just, here's a short story that I had to do for class. That was the title.
Very early writing, no title. Damyanti, what was your favorite book as a child?
A Swiss Family Robinson.
Oh.
I always wanted to go to this island, and I wanted like my family to be isolated similarly and doing everything from scratch, and be amid nature and animals and surrounded by the sea. I always wanted to live on an island, and here I am in Singapore. It is an island, very different. But, yeah.
And you are isolated sometimes when you don't want to be. Careful what you wish.
Not very isolated, but yeah.
Great. And speaking of which, Julie Carrick Dalton, what fictional place would you like to live in?
Oh, wow. I feel like I'm stealing thunder, but I might have to go with that island from Swiss Family Robinson. In my book, Swiss Family Robinson actually plays a role in the story in my novel, because I also have that nature-loving, I live on a farm, and that is kind of the world that I always fantasized about as a kid. I was obsessed with Swiss Family Robinson, and that's why I wrote it into Waiting for the Night Song.
That's so funny. You two should talk. That's
Yeah.
such a coincidence, though, to have that connection from the time you were both kids. That's great. JT Ellison, which do you like better, writing the first draft or revision?
It depends on the day. Usually revision, because that's when you can see the scope of the story and you can jump into it and say, all right, I need to fix this. I need to fix this. And that's really turning a draft into a story for me.
So the first draft is difficult?
It depends. I really love those days that I get in a flow and I look up and 4 hours have passed and I've written 2,000 words and those days are great. So I kind of like them both.
Yeah, I do too. Riley, are you a morning or a night person?
Afternoon. I'm an afternoon person. I used to be a night person because I used to work at a newspaper and I used to work like second shift. So I would not get off work until like midnight. And then I would come home and I would just stay up until all hours, sometimes writing, sometimes reading. But now that I'm a full-time writer, like I can't sleep in until like noon anymore. So I tend to work the most like in the afternoon. So
that's so interesting. I do too. I really hit my stride at like 2 p.m. And I can work as long as I want after that, but it sort of takes me a while to get going.
Yeah, in the mornings, like there's always like stuff to catch up on and things to do. And then like it's the afternoon where it's like it's wide open and now I'm going to sit down and write.
Perfect. Yes, you make an appointment to do that.
Yeah.
Damyanti, I don't know, what was the last book you read that made you cry?
That's a really hard one.
I know.
But, me, I think the latest one that I read that made me cry was, I think, The Whisper Man by Alex North, because it's about this boy and the father and it's a background of serial killings, but I really felt so sad for the boy. I cry very easily, so.
I do too. But I wonder if Alex would be surprised that you cried at that book. That's very sweet. That shows that the book is really well.
That's the latest one. I cry with a lot of books.
Julie Carrick Dalton, high school, love it or hate it?
Wow. I think I loved it. I was, I nerded out in all the things I loved in high school. I did yearbook and I did creative writing and I was a terrible athlete and that was fine with me. And yeah, I actually really loved it.
Great. JT, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Colorado, out in the woods, off a dirt road in the mountains.
And how did that change you, do you think?
You have to pack a lunch to go to the nearest store. I mean, so you become very self-sufficient. And that was absolutely something that I learned, how to entertain myself, how to sit down with a book, how to be still, how to be present, all of those things. When you're stuck in a house after a snowstorm and you're going to be there for a week, you kind of learn how to focus and I love it. I love it out there. I miss it.
And that's probably why you can be a writer, is that it's so solitary and you know how to do that.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with it.
All right, so we do want to know what each of you is reading. And we did ask each of you to bring a book that you would recommend to the audience, because once we all finish reading your books, we'll have to have the opportunity to read another wonderful book. So Riley, what book would you recommend?
I recommend it, and sorry, it's on my iPad, it is called Whisper Down the Lane by Clay McLeod Chapman. And it is inspired by the McMartin Satanic Panic case of the 80s. And it is about a man who is a teacher now, and he's married, and he's the stepfather to a young boy. And when he was a boy in the 80s, he accused the teacher of all kinds of nasty satanic type things and ruined this person's life. And so now, as an adult, he's experiencing some very similar things. And so it's a brilliant blend of horror and psychological thriller, and it unnerved me so much. And Clay McLeod Chapman is just such a genius writer. He's so original and so good.
Christopher Zagorski in the comments is saying Clay is so wonderful, and also that I read Jane Eyre every few years as well. Lots of Jane Eyre fans in the chat. Damyanti, what book are you recommending?
Well, it's this one, Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez. I'm not great with names. I'm super excited about this book. I always read fiction. I'm not so much into nonfiction, but this book, I feel like stopping everybody right on the street and saying, read this book, because it's got me so worked up, so enraged, because this is about something that sounds so dry, like gender data gap. But what it actually tells you is how the world is absolutely designed for men in so many ways and is unconsciously designed that way. And there are so many ways in which women are kept uncomfortable, unsafe, they don't have the same opportunities, and she supports everything with data. So I'm like bullying my husband into reading it. I'm making everybody read it. I've got I've ordered copies of the book, and that's the only gift everybody's going to get for the next whole year. I'm just I'm just very worked up about it. Excited is the word.
How wonderful to feel so passionate about something, and we can all feel how you feel about it. You can see that Sarah Sullivan has made graphics of each of these books, and you'll be able to see them on your screen, attendees. And we'll also put the names and titles of these books in our comments, so you can always follow up on them. Or you could just call Damyanti and she will send you one, because she has.
Yes, I want to make her like in whatever bestseller, like I want to buy up all her copies and give it to absolutely everyone. I think everyone should read this book, like absolutely everyone.
So dozens and dozens of people here tonight are hearing you now, so thank you. Julie, what about you? What book are you recommending?
This is Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey. She's an Australian writer, but this is her US debut. And it falls into that cli-fi category. If you don't know it, that's climate fiction. And this book is set in a near future world where a lot of animals have gone extinct because of climate change. And it's a love story. It's a suspense novel, and it's wrapped up in brilliant storytelling, like really moving. It's a book that will like stick with you, and the characters are so well drawn and quirky. Like the main character, Franny, is so quirky in the weirdest ways, but you think about her all the time. She has these strange loves and passions, and the author Charlotte draws this just kind of almost dystopian world, but with a very tender eye. And so as I read this book, she inspires me, because I write in the climate fiction space, and she does such a beautiful job of making it hopeful. And that's what I want to do with my book too, is like climate change is not a cheerful topic, but this book tells it straight, but leaves you hopeful. And I think that's a real gift.
We'll have to talk about that in the breakout rooms. You all be sure to ask Julie about that, about her take on climate change and how this book evolved. It's completely fascinating. And do also ask Damyanti what she's working on and what she does with a lot of the profits from her books. It's incredibly important and incredibly engaging and quite fascinating. JT, what book would you recommend?
So this is Lisa Jewell's Invisible Girl. If you have not, I hope everybody's read Lisa Jewell, because she's a jewel. She's absolutely fantastic. And she keeps getting better and better and better as her new books come out. I'm a huge fan of our British suspense authors, our female British suspense authors. And she is just, tops for me. And this book explores several storylines, and it is structured so perfectly that there are, things that are happening currently, things that seem like they're happening currently, they're not. And it's a very nice sleight of hand with what she's done. And it has an incredibly hopeful ending. And I think, Julie, that's something that we don't see a lot in fiction. So I agree. I love seeing a really wrought, dramatic story end up with something that makes you walk away and say, okay, I feel good that I just spent 6 hours reading that book.
Wasn't that fun? We hope you enjoyed that taste of what a backroom session is like. But more fun comes immediately afterward. That's when the audience is broken up into 4 breakout rooms, and each author in turn visits each room. We'd love to show you what a breakout session is like, because those relaxed face-to-face conversations between best-selling authors and readers are the hallmark of backroom events. But breakout sessions are never recorded, because what's said in the back room stays in the back room.